Welcome to CIT Today, a podcast that dives into vital mental health topics impacting our community. Join us as members of the Anne Arundel County Police Department's Crisis Intervention Team discuss the crisis response system of care. This system provides community members experiencing a crisis with supportive assistance and connections to resources. Crisis response offers support and assistance to those with substance abuse and mental health challenges. One goal is to focus on redirecting people from the criminal justice system to the behavioral health care system. Come with us as we explore these challenging situations facing families and communities everywhere.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Steve Thomas, and I'm joined alongside by my co-host, Jen Corbin. On today's show, we're excited to have Judge Shaem Spencer, the current District Administrative Judge for the District Court of Maryland in Anne Arundel County. Judge Spencer will share his experiences working with our Crisis Intervention Unit and Anne Arundel County Crisis Response. Together, we have provided assistance to countless individuals in their time of need. As a result of this model, our community members receive critical resources that positively impact their lives for years to come. Judge Spencer, thank you for joining us.
Lieutenant, thanks for having me.
Last fall, you were named Administrative Judge for District 7 of the District Court of Maryland. You succeeded District Administrative Judge John McKenna, Jr., who stepped down from his administrative judge role after 20 years on the bench. First of all, congratulations on being named Administrative Judge for the District Court of Anne Arundel County. Tell us what that moment was like for you when you were named District Administrative Judge.
Honestly, Lieutenant, it was humbling. It was something that I had not necessarily aspired to when I took the bench. It was something that my colleagues and I spoke about, knowing Judge McKenna's retirement was coming. And the most gratifying part is that my entire bench supported me in my application to be appointed to that seat. So it was humbling to have my entire bench behind me that day.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background serving on the bench in Anne Arundel County for the past 15 years?
I was appointed in 2008 by then Governor O'Malley. And at that point, I sat in the Glen Burnie District Court. Later, I moved to sit in Annapolis for a period of 4 or 5 years, and now I'm back in the Glen Burnie courthouse. There, I oversee the truancy program, and I oversee the schools and court program in the Annapolis courthouse, where we bring in students from across the county into the courthouse to see court experience, life opportunities, and things of that nature. Encourage students to make better decisions in our county.
Sir, knowing that you've worked a lot with CIT and crisis response over the years, can you tell me what that means to you working with both our crisis system and CIT?
Crisis response is what I will call a lifeline from the bench in terms of the team providing things, the crisis team that is, but also the team that we've assembled. Jen, through you, Lieutenant Thomas, we have brought in partners, the Public Defender's Office, State's Attorney's Office, but having the ability to reach out to you via text and say, Jen, I have so-and-so in crisis, whether it's mental health, substance abuse, and you sending the appropriate clinician and or Lieutenant Thomas sending the appropriate officer who can best suit and meet that person where he or she is, has been an absolute gem and a lifesaver.
Yeah, and I think that even just knowing kind of the different units we have and what we can do to help, I find that when people call now from the bench, they kind of know what team they're looking for.
And I think if you recall, about a month ago, I was in Annapolis and I had a Spanish-speaking mom with 2 young children. And you sent the perfect bilingual, younger clinician over, and she was able to reach this family in that time of need. And it was amazing. And it was, as usual, I sent a text, and within 30 minutes, there was a team in the building. And those are things that we can't replicate anywhere else. I travel the state and see my peers and colleagues, and they're amazed at what things that this team, crisis response, crisis intervention, does with the judiciary. And it's just, a pleasure to be part of, and I'm humbled to be on the team.
Thank you, sir. And how has CIT and crisis response changed your options?
The options are now endless. And frankly, it starts at bail review. And as you know, there's a member of your team at bail reviews, and that helps us get an insight, a deeper insight than just the pre-trial release unit, but a clinician is there to see and reach out if there's availability of a bed and what that need is, whether it's substance abuse or mental health, and the scope of that. And if there's resources that outside of that, they're able to help us find that. So it starts at almost upon arrest. And then after that, when we're in trial or even in court pre-trial and we're assessing individuals who may be in a mental state, a mental crisis, we're able to pause, maybe get a team in, postpone the case, and allow crisis to assess and, in my opinion, help at that point. And it's a means of prevention, in my opinion. And that's the things that are so priceless that we have, is that crisis is involved in the game from start to finish. Because as you know, for years now, we've had people on probation to me that we've extended for 2 years, 3 years. And the condition is whatever Jen Corbin says in crisis, you do that.
Yeah. And I think what you're referring to, a lot of people don't realize we have a jail diversion program, and that daily in the jail upon low-level crimes that they can meet. And if they are screened positive for mental health or substance use, we offer right there services that we present to the judge that's hearing their bail review to say, this is what we can offer on top of the crisis system that you guys have kind of during your regular day-to-day court hearings.
And frankly, Jen, now to the point where if I see your clinician, Jessica, in the back of the courtroom, it's a shake me off yes, or nod yes, or shake me off no. And I know she's done her due diligence. She's met with you and your team. And if she says there's a bed available, 9 times out of 10, there's no public safety risk, and I'm amenable. My colleagues are amenable to putting that person in that facility, treatment facility, whatever it may be, that the team that you've assembled has gotten together and said, this is the best option for us as opposed to incarceration and detention. And we're 10 out of 10 judges do that in our county, I think, on a regular basis.
You raise a good point, though. How have we gotten there? There's some background to that we've gotten to. And I think some of that has been an appreciation of what you've been able to do to get us in to meet with judges and to talk to them about the services and to make people open-minded to other options other than jail.
I think I was riding over here today for this discussion, and I remember one of the first times we met, you and the lieutenant told me about the young man who was on the bridge, I think had traveled through jurisdiction to jurisdiction. I never heard that full story, but you told me, I think it was just in court after I had a case and you were there following up with somebody else. And it was that follow through that I was enamored with. And then I think sometimes there was a young man you took from here in Maryland to Georgia for treatment because that was the best facility, the bed available. You drove him there, you got him there, and he's doing magical things now. But it was that commitment that the team, crisis response, has shown that is appealing. I think it's an opportunity to have that team, its wrap around. It doesn't end just at that bail review or that sentencing or that placement of a bed. It's time and time again when I've called you, Jen, and said, Mr. Doe has been kicked out of facility X. Can you please find another facility? And it's when you find Y and Z and then start over in A, B, and C. That's commitment the team has shown. And I think that's commitment to our community and our citizens that has gone miles and miles beyond what it used to be or what the community knows about. Because I know about it now, but I consider you a friend, and I call you on a regular basis to reach out to community citizens who are in need, whether it's just a phone call that day because they're having a bad moment, or it's full on in need of services that could be long term.
Yeah, and I think one of the unique things that many of the judges have learned and that we're working really well together on is the fact that not every plan fits every person, and that you guys see them regularly in court and know that while A might not have worked, we're presenting B and C, and you can help guide us into what might be a better fit. And I think realizing that there are many different options and that everybody fits in the perfect box has been helpful in all of us working together.
One of the first things you told me when we met was we meet them wherever they are then, and then figure the rest out. And that's gone a long way in terms of establishing de-escalating in the immediate moment and then establishing what the next course of action may be. And it's not always, you're right, a square box. It could be a round circle or a diamond, but I love the way that your team figures it out. And I also appreciate the fact that you reach out to the bench and come and sat and talk to all of us at the bench about the resources and the availability. But the way we've developed our collaboration with the Public Defender's Office and the State's Attorney's Office, and allowing them to get involved and help avoid not only detention at the front end, but also in the back end. And probation with the condition of compliance with crisis is something that we do often in Anne Arundel County, and I think is effective and it works. because I know that if they walk away from treatment, you're going to call St. Thomas, going to have them picked up and brought in. Him or her's going to report to the judge the next day. And we have that relationship, and that's been a great model for us. And I think it's saved a lot of lives and keep people out of jail, frankly.
And sir, I need to thank you for your flexibility, because some of the unique things that you and the other judges are doing, where we've taken it from a system to completely individually based, which we do frequently when people have warrants and we're reaching out saying, we know this person needs help, their family wants them to get help, and we're able to eliminate some of the barriers to treatment from the criminal justice system from the things that you've been able, we work together and that you've done.
One of the things that you and your team have shared is that there's people, and I'm not a clinician, but they're maybe in crisis in need of mental health or just an opportunity to talk and decompress, but they won't come see that person because they know there's a warrant for their arrest. And our ability to have that discussion, open communication, bring that person to the courthouse, have the warrant stricken by the judge in the room, and then returned back to the custody of, released to crisis, and to comply with treatment recommendations of crisis has been, again, a model that I think is unique to our state and a model that I think works. And frankly, it involves all of us. And it's a late text at night saying, I'm going to bring somebody in the morning, and we loop in the other team and public defender and prosecutor all there, and we're able to strike that warrant and get the person either in a bed or in front of a clinician to get some assistance. And that's been, again, amazing.
Let me ask you a question that could be something that other counties could learn from. What makes us all work together? We're talking state's attorney, public defender, a lot of times seeing eye to eye. I never thought early on when we were working, especially Safe Station program 5 years ago, when we were sitting at the table, that the state's attorney and the public defender would agree to a lot of the plans. And when warrants came up, agreeing to allow us to assist, in our reasons being give someone a second chance. Why do you think that's working?
Well, I recently took over as the administrative judge in the county, and one of the things I've been preaching is we are a team, and we are a team designed to help. And district court is designed to help, in my opinion. And that's what we've been, this team, the crisis response team, have been doing for so long. But the ability to do that now across the entire county, I think, is going to help us even further. And I think looping them in has been the best thing we've done to keep this machine moving and growing and getting better. And I hope we continue to do that. And I think part of the benefit is we have public defenders who want to help, and prosecutors who know and are understand that jail is not necessarily justice. And justice is not always jail. Sometimes justice is help. And that's what we're supposed to do, is help. And we try. And the best part is that we may not always win the first time, but we don't quit and we keep pushing forward. And like you said earlier, it may take 15 different steps, but we'll figure it out together.
And one of the things I'm really thankful for, sir, is we've changed policing in Anne Arundel County, where, how I like to phrase it, we're now helpful and not hurtful to people. Exactly what you're saying, where a lot of these interventions are done by officers in the unit, where people that may have been running from the police are now embracing us, embracing the officers for being their social supports.
And these officers who are so well trained are able to not only meet those individuals where they are at that moment, but also de-escalate. I also just be an ear or a shoulder, just be there and present and available. And I think that has transformed the way things are done in Anne Arundel County. I think we are a model across the state. I feel as though, and I say it loud and proud, we have the best police department in the state in Anne Arundel County. I say it every time I get a chance to, and I'm going to say it again, because we do. We aim to help. And sometimes, and I tell families, 10 times going to be at your house to pick up your son or daughter. He may have to put him or her in cuffs. That's for their safety and your safety and his own safety. But that is the last resort. And also to be a clinician there. Maybe you can talk to Jen or Melissa or somebody who's there that day to help get in the car and go find that help, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So I think one of the things to kind of help everyone understand how this works is, could you give a good example of when you think it's the best time to call us, what might be in front of you in court, just so that some people who are listening can understand that, is this a case that they could help my son or daughter or my husband or wife or?
Jen, I think you're the one who told me in the past month or so of the mental health crisis in our county, not only just in our adults, but on our young adults and our children. And our children are suffering, frankly. And this is just based on what I'm seeing in court, the studies I've read, but what you've shared with me. And I think our students are in crisis. And mental health is the biggest issue facing our children and our youth and our county, frankly. And I think our ability to reach them and meet them, I think, is where we want to be. I think our team does that, and that's, I think, our goal.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I hear a lot out in the community that I think just some education could go a long way is people do this or choose to do treatment just to get out of jail free card. But what they don't understand is that's not necessarily the case. And that in giving them the help and showing them the support, both from the court system, the police department, from crisis response, from the school system maybe, is that this is building them up and hopefully giving them the tools that they need to see that people aren't giving up on them. So a lot of times we just want to say, well, they're trying to get out of jail free, but realistically, they're learning to care for themselves in a different way with mental health.
And one of the things that I don't think our community yet understands is the depth of the program. And sometimes our children, our neighbors, our family, our friends are in need of just some mental health assistance, help, guidance. And when I see that in my courtroom, when I see a person struggling through some depression and openly says, Judge, I am going through depression because this has happened in my life and there's so many issues of trauma. And if I've seen that person more than one time, the second time I'm probably going to call and ask, maybe you can come, Jen, send a team down to take a listen. If the person is doing things that are self-hurting, those are things that I'm concerned about. But I've also loved and adored the other side of the team, and there are those who are in addiction, and they are in crisis, and they need help. Safe Station was a great start, but I believe the way this program has developed and grown, expanded, that there's a mobile team available, someone who's in the throes of addiction and needs help. I've found that your teams find that help, and I found that your teams find the help over and over and over again, and folks don't know usually that those costs are not borne by individual families. The way you work the magic, I don't know what you do, Jen, but the way people get treatment, it's been amazing. I'm not spending someone else's tax dollars, but it's been amazing.
Yeah, and I think one of the good things we don't talk to that maybe Steve can talk to real quickly, and I know it'll be in another episode coming up, but a little bit about the substance use piece and what we're seeing in courts and how getting people help, it may take a couple of times, is helping the police department reduce some of the crime and the things that are going on, meaning that people are not back in your courtroom, right? That they're not back there in front of you. I could talk case after case where we start out with a legal issue and then we're never back in the courtroom again.
And that door opened because they came to court, and that door shut and they never came back because we made the right phone call. And I was calling crisis. When I see someone going who's stealing just to steal, to support a habit, I've now got to the point now where I'm looking at the person, and after 15 years, I'm not saying I can say see an addict, but I see some signs of addiction. But I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything. I'm happy to call crisis and have crisis come in and make that assessment. And it's not 9 times out of 10, crisis says, yes, Judge Spencer, this young man, young lady's in the throes of addiction, and we need to find help. And you guys do. And it's been pretty awesome.
So, sir, when you call, what are you trying to get accomplished?
First and foremost, as you know, it's help. I want to help that person, whoever's in front of me at that moment, whether it's mental health, whether it's drug addiction. I want to get them help. I also want to keep them out of jail. Frankly, jail's not necessarily where they should be. Crimes are committed, but sometimes usually there's a reason. Addiction, the throes of mental health issues. When I call, I feel like the first step is we're diverting them, those people who need help, from jail and from entering the system. Sometimes it's just diversion. And I wish we had the numbers to show how over the past several years, the numbers in the county have gone down. Somebody way smarter than me can figure that out. But I'm confident that the work this team is doing is reducing crime, reducing recidivism, and reducing drug addiction, and helping mental health people in crisis.
So we actually do have those numbers. The year before we started Safe Stations in 2017, we had 1,824 burglaries in the county. Last year, we had 725.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it's all we become. And it's like you said, Jen, and it's funny, I tell people as a police officer, my job is to keep people out of jail. And it really is how we work as a team. Jen's the clinicians. come up with a treatment plan for both mental health, substance abuse, and a lot of times, or most of the time, the officers become the social supports for people to fall back, to drive people to treatment, to help them, whatever they need, until we can link them back to their family.
I hope you'll invite me back for another episode because I'd like you to remember or tell your audience about a friend of mine named Sam who used to frequent Annapolis a lot. And Sam, frankly, would commit a lot of thefts. He was in crisis, and I didn't know what the crisis was. It started off by just me and Sam having coffee on a Friday in the courthouse once a week. But that wasn't enough. I'm not trained. I'm not a clinician. Your team is. And eventually, finally, I got smart enough to have your team come assess Sam. And Sam, Sam's a different man now. And Sam is not committing crimes. He's not stealing across the street from the courthouse. He's not stealing from the Rite Aid downtown. Sam is, you know a story, but Sam is doing amazing things. And I can guarantee you Sam's well-being, mental health, and otherwise is a testament to crisis.
Now, he's a great example of a success story that is really a leader in the community.
I spoke with Sam when you were training your officers, I guess last year, and Sam's an amazing man, and Sam's story is amazing, and I hope you all have a chance to meet Sam and hear from Sam.
Now, and we will in the future. We'll definitely have Sam on for his own.
I think if we count wins and losses, Sam's a win.
Oh, he's a huge win.
Yeah, and I think it's good to talk a little bit about wins and losses because sometimes we aren't successful. And that's okay, right? Sometimes, I mean, there's times we have to call you back, right? And ask for help from the bench to say, we're doing the best we can. This person is not safe. We need help. They've walked out of treatment several times or they're not taking their meds. And we know that we have an obligation because we make a promise to you that if they're not on our release good, that we're going to bring them back to you. And can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
At that point, that's the worst day of my week because at that point I'm issuing that warrant and I have an obligation and oath to the community to keep our community safe. And if our people who are in our program can't comply with treatment or walk away or risk themselves and others, I have to put them in jail, at least temporarily, so they can either be assessed. You can find another option. But jail is the last resort. But sometimes we do have to put people in jail if they don't want to comply with the 1,001 things that your team do and does for those individuals.
Yeah, and I think it's good for people to understand that even when people go back to jail on a warrant, that we are still following them in the judicial system. So we still come to their court hearings, we come to their follow-ups, we communicate with mental health in the jail. It's a continuous program. It's not like we stop because they go back to jail.
I was going to say, I can't tell you the countless number of times I let people out of jail because they've written me or you've met with them and they're now ready again to try. And you've told me 1,000 times, addiction is not a 1, 2, 3 fix. It could be a 7, 8 time fix. So I'm always happy if you're comfortable and feel that the person is amenable and safe in the community. I'm always happy. I have several times released individuals back into the care and custody of crisis with the condition that they comply with treatment and just do what they're asked to do with regard to treatment.
And so I remember one case I think you're going to remember where we were out and we were checking a young lady's well-being that you were really worried about her. And you knew she needed treatment. We knew she, at that point, wasn't compliant. And you issued a warrant right away. And her road to recovery was a rocky road, but the end result was success. And it was a lot of resources, but she had a lot of trauma. And it was the thing that everyone working together and you made the right decisions at the right time, that when she was in jail, it was to keep her safe. She was, and actually at times it was for her to self-reflect on what she needed to do to get where she is today.
If you recall, she was even pregnant, and I held her in jail for a period of time to ensure that the baby was delivered clean and sober. And she was dual diagnosis. She had mental health and drug addiction issues. And then we put her in jail a few times. Yeah. And sometimes I cried because it was the last thing I wanted to do, but it was needed. And it was able to keep her away from using. She was able to have her baby born and not taken from her. And she was a win as well. It took us a very long time, over 3+ years, but again, a win. And there were some ups and downs, but it was the commitment from all of us at this table, but your entire team in terms of when she was in that bad spot. It was a really bad spot. I issued the warrant immediately. I think you had an officer within the building in 30 minutes and it was served. I think saved her life, frankly. She was in jail, but it saved her life.
I remember after that being in court, and I specifically asked you as we were getting background information, and I'll never forget it. It's like it was yesterday when I asked you if she had if she ever had family in court, and you had told me no. And then when she was there, you repeated that, and you told her, you said, I lied to Lieutenant Thomas because he asked me if you've ever had family in court, and I said you didn't, but you do have family. You have me. You now have Sean, you have Caroline, and you have Steve Thomas, and we are your family, and we're going to help you succeed.
And, I think that sunk in for her. I think that was eye-opening for me because as we started the show, this is not a one-stop shop, and we're in it for the long haul, as Jen said, and we're committed, all of us. The public defender, Sean Gaither, does amazing things, and he was committed to his client, and through him and you, Caroline, we were able to push, and we pushed a lot. We pushed long and hard, and a rocky road, but we became her family. And I held her baby, and it was amazing.
One of the things I learned from Jen is people that have never been helped before in their life don't know how to accept help. And it took a lot for her to learn how to accept help from anyone, not just us and as a police officer or Jen as a clinician or you as a judge, but they never had any family there to support. So it takes a while for them to build trust in us and in the system that we are there to be helpful.
And I think that's the issue. And I'm so humbled that you're doing this program, is that you need to get this word out there, is that we are here to help. And this family that we've established has long arms and long reach. And it's not just to one time get somebody out of jail or one time get somebody out of a mental health facility. It's a plan that's established to get people back into the community doing great things and being model citizens once again and doing things in our county that are great.
So one last question as we wrap this up. What's the future hold for all of us, for the police, the judicial system, crisis response? Because I don't think we're done yet. I think there's creativity to be had in the county. I know you've got a lot of ideas.
I've been the administrative judge for about 90 days now, not even there yet. So I'm still reaching. I always tell you and Lieutenant Thomas that you need 10 more teams. I want to be the biggest children advocate for that in our county, is getting more resources for crisis teams out there. And I want to make this model that we have, and we do it pretty well right now, but I want to make sure all officers know, but our citizens know that this team at this table does great things. And I think I'm going to get more people involved and invested and trusting in us, reaching out to us, making that call, whether it's to you, to me, to Lieutenant Thomas, to public defender, state's attorney, whoever they need, a family member calling, because I think we can do great things. And I'm excited for our future. I'm hoping that we can expand the things that we do now to maybe do the same things in the Annapolis courthouse more often than we do now. Maybe we have a dedicated court. Stay tuned for that, Lieutenant Thomas.
I'd agree. I think we'd make it when we can have someone for you guys in each courthouse each day, as well as the jail, to be there to meet with people who have been arrested, but also people who are in your courtroom where you don't have to wait 30 minutes for us to get there. We've got a little ways to go, but at least we're started in that direction, and we have someone there every so often.
And there are always bail reviews, and if someone's in the building all the time, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That brings us to the end of this episode. A special thanks to Judge Spencer for joining us today. We hope today's episode provided some critical information that may help you or a loved one.
We would like to take a moment to thank our listeners for joining us. If you or a loved one are experiencing a crisis, please contact the Anne Arundel County Crisis Response Warm Line at 410-768-5522. This number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And remember, your actions may save a life.